Hi, and welcome to another video blog by the Confidence Lounge. My name is Aaron, and I am the founder of the Confidence Lounge. And today I'm going to talk about the area of change. Now, the very fact that you're watching this and maybe you've gone to the Confidence Lounge website is that you want to have a change in your confidence. And one of the things I talk about in the Confidence Lounge is that people don't actually want confidence. They want what they think confidence can get them. And so its very nature is that a change has to occur. Now, when people go to attempt a change, whether it's to lose weight or to change a behavior of sorts, that involves a level of time. Now, you can change a thought in a moment. You could find something out about a person that just changes your perspective of them completely. But when it's something that requires an habitual change, whether that's a thought or a behavior, that takes time. And so within that time, things can occur where that change doesn't get ingrained. And maybe you decided that you wanted to be more socially confident. And so that you're really motivated towards doing it, and then 6 months later you find that you're exactly where you were. Or maybe you wanted to lose weight and you're really motivated, you said you were going to go to the gym all the time and eat really healthy, and then 6 months time you look back and you look at where you are and find that you're exactly where you were, or even worse, you had actually gained more weight. So there's this area of change, and within that change we have this notion of willpower, and within that, ego depletion. Now, these two areas is just a model. They don't actually exist. There's not an area in the brain that you can say willpower. It's a model, but it's a good way of explaining what can happen in the brain as a result of the process of making things habit. Now, what I'm going to explain is for you to imagine that you have a booster pack, okay? And each morning, that booster pack is on full. And with each decision that you have to make, each problem that you come in contact with, each thought that arises in that day just lowers that energy within that booster pack, to which by the end of the day, that booster pack might be very low in energy. And that tends to be the point where things are going to falter. So if you're on a diet, for example, that'd be the time when you just think, oh, sod it, I'm going to have those biscuits in the cupboard or the chocolate. If it's the social interaction, you maintain that you want to do it every evening, and then you've had a hard day and you just don't do it. You just say, well, I'll do it next time. Okay. Now, there was an experiment that was conducted at Stanford University, and what it involved was a group of people in a room, and one group was asked to remember two numbers, so 6, 5, and then another group was asked to remember 7 numbers, so 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 7, 6. Okay. Now, once they've been given their instructions, a lady in the corner had a nice tray of food. On one tray was fruit, and on the other tray was chocolate and cake. And what the researchers found, when they offered each participant to choose one piece of food to have, they found that those who were asked to remember more numbers had the chocolate, chose to have the chocolate over the fruit. And this explains the area of cognitive load. And that is when you have tried to take on too many things in your frontal brain, you can say your working memory, then it just gets too much. We have a finite level, and this is what the booster pack is. We have a finite level of energy to hold our attention in one particular thing. And if it's not habitual, then that's when things can start to fall by the wayside. So when you're looking in the area of change, to rely on willpower is about as effective as asking a shoplifter to tend to your shop whilst you go and have lunch. It's just not going to work. So things have to be in place to ensure that you have an intent to do something, and over time that becomes habit. Because confidence, for example, is a very ingrained thing, okay? And so if you don't feel like you're confident right now, or don't feel like you're confident in this particular area, it might take time for you to become confident in something, and it might involve you doing things on a repetitive scale in order for you to ingrain it, for it to become second nature. So when I'm working with people, there are 3 things that I tend to have in place to ensure that behaviors and thoughts become habitual. The first one is just small incremental change. If you are looking to lose weight or have a better body, there's no point saying, right, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week, I'm going to have this regime of eating. Because if you're not doing that already, that's a very large amount of things to put into your daily life that I imagine is already very busy. So the small incremental change is just pick one thing to start with. Maybe you go to the gym once a week, okay? And once that is in place, you maybe choose another thing to make the change. And so with the thought process, you think about one time where you're going to start to think in a certain way. Maybe you just sit back and say, right, that my image of myself, what would be a more confident way of thinking about it? Okay, and the more you do that, the more you start to think in that way. But it's very small. It's not something that's going to be, I'm going to say all these affirmations every single day, and I'm going to make sure that I say them every single day and think in that way. Okay. The second thing is a non-interfering system. And that means that I imagine that all of you think that you are busy, and as do I. We all have this perception of busyness, and that means you having commitments already. And so by inputting a large, overpowering system just for the sake of changing is unlikely to work. So when I say a non-interfering system, what I mean is that it's something very small, has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it revolves around what it is that you want to change. So for example, if you wanted to be socially confident, that is you going to a social environment, maybe a shopping mall, you say, I'm going to speak to one person, okay, and that'll be it, and then that'll be it finished. And I'm going to do that on Saturdays between 12 and 3, okay? That's the system. Saturday, 12, I'm doing this. 3, I'm finished. One thing, I'm going to speak to one person. That's your system. It's very non-interfering. And as you think about what you do in your life and what it is you want to change, you can start to think about what that system would be for you that's small and doesn't interfere too much with what you're doing already. The final thing is regular feedback. Now, as I've said already, any change involves time, okay? And the more feedback you can give yourself, involving mini wins that enable you to see that you are progressing, the quicker the change can be. There's no use saying, for example, that you want to lose weight, and the only feedback you give is when you see that you've reached that weight that you want to do. What about the times that you actually go to the gym? What about all the choices you make that are different to the choices you made 3 weeks ago? What about the different thoughts that you're coming into play already? That is showing of progress, that is showing of change. And the more you can do those, the more you can notice those, the easier it becomes to change. The worst thing to happen when you're going through looking to change something in your behavior or your thought process is not noticing the changes that occur along the way. So those 3 things: small incremental changes, a non-interfering system, and regular feedback of small wins. By inputting those, it makes the process of change harder. So don't worry about willpower, don't rely on willpower. What it involves is small incremental changes within a system that is non-interfering, that involves regular feedback. Okay, so that concludes this week's video blog. If there is anything that you want me to cover in these video blogs, please contact me and let me know. If not, go to theconfidencelounge.com and I'll see you next week.